What if I told you I had something in my hand worth more than gold? And no, it's not my prized possession, even though I do highly value it. For centuries, entire trade systems were built around this one thing. Merchants lied about it, empires fought over it, and ordinary people had almost no idea where it actually came from. Because the secret wasn't just the spice, it was the mystery around it, and mystery value. I'm talking about cinnamon for those still guessing what I have in my hand. Today, cinnamon is everywhere. It's in cereal, candy, coffee, desserts, and toothpaste for some reason, and every autumn product ever created. The second temperature drops by 3 degrees, companies start throwing cinnamon into everything like it's a survival requirement. Now, to be fair, autumn survives financially because of white women and cinnamon. But for most of history, cinnamon, it was luxury that most didn't know anything about. The kind of luxury that made people sail across oceans and lie professionally for profit. And honestly, I respect the hustle. Cinnamon comes from the inner bark of certain tropical trees, especially in what is now Sri Lanka and parts of Southeast Asia, which sounds simple enough now, but for ancient Europeans, the origin of cinnamon was basically a conspiracy theory. They knew it existed, they knew it smelled good, they knew rich people liked putting on food, but where it actually came from, no one really knew. And the people who did know wanted to keep it that way. Arab traders controlled much of the early spice trade, and they understood something very important. If customers know where something comes from, they might just go get it themselves. So instead of telling the truth, they created stories instead. And these stories were incredible. One legend claimed cinnamon was collected from the nests of giant birds living on dangerous cliffs. Apparently, these birds gather cinnamon sticks to build their nest, and the only way to collect the spice was to leave chunks of meat below the nest, where the bird would carry the meat upward, and their nest would collapse under the weight. Emergents will collect the fallen cinnamon. It sounds like less history and more like somebody explaining a dream they had after eating expired cheese. Although that would be a great D&D side quest. The party will probably try to do some weird shit to the cinnamon bird. Another version claimed cinnamon came from mysterious lands filled with venomous creatures in deadly swamps, also called Australia. Basically, every explanation except its tree. And honestly, it worked, because mystery increases value. If somebody tells you the spice comes from a tree, you might pay less. But if they say the spice is harvested from cliffs guarded by monster birds, suddenly you're emotionally invested. Not because it was impossibly rare, but because information was rare. And for centuries, that information was controlled. By the Middle Ages, spices had become status symbols. Rich people used them to show wealth. Some foods were heavily spiced, not because it tasted better, but because subtlety was for poor people. Owning spices showed you had access to global trade. Rich people even rented pineapples just to flex at parties. That is why it is also the symbol for swingers. And cinnamon became especially prized because it was sweet, fragrant, and relatively versatile. You could use it in wine, meat dishes, desserts, medicine, perfumes. Humanity looked at cinnamon and basically said, yes, this goes everywhere. Trade routes carrying cinnamon became incredibly profitable. Arab merchants dominated them for centuries, and everyone along the chain raised prices again and again. By the time cinnamon reached Europe, it had passed so many middlemen that it became absurdly expensive, which eventually created a problem. The European kingdoms looked at spice prices and realized they were being financially destroyed by seasoning, so they decided to do something about it. And this is one of the reasons Europeans began searching for direct sea routes to Asia during the Age of Exploration. Yes, part of the global exploration happened because people wanted cheaper spices. History is less glamorous than school makes it sound. Eventually, European powers reached the regions where cinnamon actually grew. And once they discovered the source, the illusion started collapsing. The Portuguese were the first Europeans to seize control of cinnamon produced in regions in Sri Lanka during the 1500s. Then came the Dutch, then the British. Apparently every single empire saw cinnamon and thought, I should own that. And I think that's cool. They were tired of spending too much money for spice, so wanted to acquire the source. Once cinnamon cultivation spread and knowledge became public, the spice slowly became more common. The mystery disappeared, and when mystery disappears, prices usually follow. Today, cinnamon is one of the most recognizable spices on earth. You can buy it almost anywhere, which is kind of amazing when you think about it. Something that once inspired myths, global trade routes, expansion, and professional lying is now sitting on a plastic container beside your microwave. Its value didn't disappear because someone stopped liking it. It disappeared because people finally understood it, which honestly feels like a metaphor for a lot of things. But remember next time you use cinnamon, that you're using something people once treated like treasure. A spice powerful enough to reshape trade. A spice mysterious enough to inspire legends. And a spice that proves humanity will absolutely cross oceans if food tastes slightly better and they didn't have to pay as much. And that is the history of cinnamon. As always, thank you and make sure to like and subscribe.